And we continue to paint our party's resident rogue wizard multi-class of Matroth. So we've been sticking with a lot of greens and browns just because the greens are the player's favorite colors. Today we're going to be working on detail pieces, so all we'll have left will be the cloak. But there's a little bit of a pauldron up here on the shoulder. We'll do that in grays, of course making it look metallic, doing a non-metallic metal paint scheme. And there are lots of little bits and bobs around here. So there's a little pouch that's most likely on the belt. We'll do that with just a leather color and match the belt, and then bits on the scabbard as well with this leather. These leather trim pieces here will look good against that red leather scabbard, or quiver, I guess is the right term. And this brush here is just about ready to retire, so it's a little bit more challenging. Gotta do a little bit of cleanup here just to make sure that the strap itself stays painted and nothing else. But in addition to the straps and the pouch and the belt, we're also going to focus on the bowstring, the arrow, the sword that's in the scabbard, so we'll have to do the hilt on the sword, and the gloves, as well as the nocks on the quiver, the fletching, the feathers on the end of the arrows. So a lot of painting that we have to do today, but we will get it done. And as we continue to paint on this one here, I consider doing the gloves possibly in black, again to just harken on to that rogue main class of Matroth. But because the player has multi-classed it into wizard, again, I'm not super focused on the rogue aspects of it for this paint job. It's worked out really well for me to break away from just the standard blacks and grays, and we'll get a lot more of the feeling of the roguishness in the cloak. So we'll probably do blacks and purples there, because that'll really stand off well against the greens and the browns that we've really been putting on this miniature a lot. Matroth as the party's rogue and wizard combo. The player's been playing him really well, using those rogue abilities to get up close and personal and deal some damage. In this last game session that we had, they were traversing some very dangerous roads and wilderness encounters with some multi-points. They encountered some bugbear scouts from legions in the area, and Matroth was very good at getting up close and personal and dispatching them out. They also encountered a stone giant, which really was a challenge for the party. It was close to the end of the day, and they had already done a number of different encounters for that adventuring day, so I was a little nervous about how they would handle it. One of the party members actually was knocked unconscious, but combined and together they were able to dispatch the stone giant and move on before encountering at the very end of the day a pack of jackal-wares. And it was kind of a good thing we ended before combat began, but it was kind of a good thing that Matroth and Jaw were up close and personal, because being able to get some damage right out the gate was definitely an important piece. But it did lead to some interesting RP for Matroth and the guide, a ranger NPC who was guiding them through the wilderness dunes. So it was really interesting to see some of that going on. So with this miniature here, this is the only miniature of this party so far that is in the Reaper bones. So it is a resin and not a metal, but the details on this are extremely well. This is called I don't remember the name of the miniature. I'll have to look it up and put it in the description. But this miniature here, you could use it for a number of things. You could easily do this as a ranger, especially going light colors like I have here. Matroth's mini could easily pass for a ranger, but the details on the sculpt are really good. You can see when it focuses not on my hand but on the miniature, little pouches and the belts and the scabbard, the fletchings on the arrow, lots of good detail on this miniature. I was really impressed with it. And on the gloves it has these armored little bits, so we'll paint those after the gloves are done. We'll paint those similar to what we do the pauldron on the shoulder, just a non-metallic metal paint job. On the gloves and the belt I started with a leather brown and up to an off-white called white leather or leather white. These are all Reaper paints. I really like the consistency, and when you purchase them in triads you can blend the triads and you've got great progression on colors, so they really work great. But when you look at the miniature from the front like that especially, you can really see that ranger character being represented really well if you're using this miniature. And again, because Matroth in the game is actually a Kenku and not a human or half elf or elf, this miniature isn't an exact, I guess, representation of Matroth. But again, not having a Kenku ready to go when this campaign started, I made do with what I had, and the player will just get this as a gift for playing in the campaign. Here just doing some of the lighter leather details. So you want to think of where the leather is going to wear the most. So you want to do on knuckles, on natural fold lines, wherever that leather is going to have the most kind of wear is where you want to focus lightening up and doing highlights on those areas. Same with the pouch on the flap. It's going to get the most wear on that flap as the character is going in and out of the pouch and that flap is moving up and down. Then on these straps on the quiver, it's on the outer end where it's rubbing against things. And realistically, you should put it more towards the leg where it's rubbing the leg more. But for the eye, as you're looking this on the table, you want to have those progressions be more noticeable. So I put it on the outside. But Matroth is coming along pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. You can see the pauldron starting to stand out a little bit. Now I'll start highlighting that up. And this is just going from a very dark gray will go to just almost white. And the little bit on the bottom of the scabbard is going to go the same way. And then also we'll do the arrow tip on the arrow that's in the bow, as well as the little armor bits on the glove and the belt buckle. All these little detail pieces actually take some of the longest time because you've got such small details and a lot of details. So these little bits actually take more time than, say, the pants or the tunic or even the bow, just because there are so many little bits and pieces, buckles and straps and all of that. And you could have done the cloak prior to all these little bits, but the cloak I'm saving for last just because the outer ends, I always try to paint from whatever the deepest layer is, so the skin, out to the whatever's furthest from that skin. So just keeping with that prospect. And again, the cloak is where we'll tie in both the rogue background as well as the race of a Kenku. I still don't have a solid plan on that, but it'll come to me, I'm sure. And you see we speed up the camera when we're doing some of the painting, just so we can keep these at times and sizes of video that are more enjoyable to watch. If you like watching the miniatures being painted, I've had a few people tell me that I should start a Twitch stream, but I just have not yet convinced myself of it. I like doing this format and just painting and being able to adjust the speed so that it's more palatable. Now here for the bowstring, I am using the leather color. This is the light leather. And I'm not going to do much with this bowstring just because it's such a small piece. Now, a lot of miniatures don't include the bowstring, and I actually like that, because then what I do is I'll use a piece of thread and actually glue it in place, and it really looks cool. Whenever the bowstrings are sculpted in the miniature one, they're a challenge to paint. You can see I have to twist it around a whole lot to get good coverage on it and make sure I get it all. But they're also fairly thick. So the bowstring is actually 3 fingers thick compared to the miniature itself. So I like to use thread, but we'll make this work. And again, I'm not going to do any highlighting or shading on this bowstring. I'm just going to paint it one color. It'll be the only item on this miniature that doesn't have multiple coats. And the arrow is just going to get a wood brown, and then I'll do just a muddy brown on the bottom to give it some shadow. And you can see it's got crooked. It's not a straight arrow. That's okay. We're using this for the tabletop. This is not a competition miniature. This is not going to be judged or put into any type of competition. So again, this is just a gift for the player. I don't think they'll mind having a crooked arrow on this tabletop miniature. And working on the fletching, now that we've got the arrow done, same as we did with the ones in the scabbard. This is that off-white, the leather white. And then we'll go through and do the arrowhead, same way we did the pauldron. And starting with just a dark gray. And overall it's looking pretty good, just looking to make sure I got good coverage. And we've still got to go in and block in a few other pieces, but some of that has got to dry first. That way we're not taking paint away, so we'll give it a little bit to dry. And make sure we didn't miss anything. And then get to doing some more painting. This is where we're going to just put on a black wash on the fletchings on the arrows. So we'll do all of them at the same time. And I put it on a little heavy here. You'll see here in a bit I'll have to take some of it off. That's okay. This just gives the depth. And then the underside of the arrow will do the same thing. Once that black starts to dry, then we can go through and just re-put on the base. Here for the arrow head, we're going to do just like we did the pauldron and start highlighting that up. And we want to make sure that we do like opposite ends, so wherever the highlight is on one plane, the highlight goes in the opposite direction of the other plane. And these are really thin layers, really thin paints, and air is blowing pretty good, so I'm able to paint these little bits pretty quick, as opposed to the fletching where it's super wet and needs to dry a little bit more. And just like the pauldrons, this will go up to a just off white. So the fletchings will do all the way up to a white highlight, and that's just we're not doing it on the metal bits because they're so small. And then the buckle, the pauldron, the arrowhead, and the bits on the glove will all be this non-metallic metal paint, going from gray to almost white. And I know it's hard to see on the camera, but the arrowhead itself is all non-metallic. So here's where I'm cleaning up some of that black wash on that feather, just because it's taken a long time to dry. It's pretty thick. So just pulling some of that away. Then here we're just doing the base coat again on the ends of the fletching, just to make those stand out from what we've put the wash over. And a little bits on top. The tops are always the biggest challenge for me because it's hard to discern the different fletchings. So I just do a couple of stripes on top, going in the direction that the fletchings that are showing. And then we'll put just a hair of actual pure white on those. And that'll really let those stand out and really pop off that miniature really well. And as that upper fletching dries, we'll do the same thing there. Here we're doing just the metal bits on the glove. Again, just starting with a dark gray. And then we'll put a black wash on top of it, and then start highlighting up through our gray progression into just an off-white. And works really well. Non-metallic metal is a little bit challenging to do, but the results of it are really, really good. Especially when you use different colors to do it. So if you're moving through shades of blues or greens in it, you can really make the metal look like aluminum or titanium, depending on the colors that you use in that progression. It really gives a lot of cool details. But that I tend to do more on competition miniatures than just on tabletop miniatures, because the process takes a little bit longer and your color progression is a lot more stark, and the players don't seem to be looking to that level of detail when you're giving them a free miniature. And here just touching up those fletchings with the off-white and just the edge of the feathers, leaving that dark shadow from the wash in. It progresses from that black to a washed off-white to off-white, and then this final highlight of white on the very ends really makes it stand out and look good. And here we're just putting the black wash on the metal bits on the gauntlets. A little bit heavy there, so we pull some off. Give it a bit to dry. So Matroth, as the rogue and wizard multi-class, it's really, now that the party is just about hit 5th level, it's going to be interesting to see what type of spells. I know the player has mentioned he's looking forward to doing things like Blink or Misty Step, being able to combo those moves with his rogue abilities of Sneak Attack and Backstab. It should be able to do a lot of damage, which is going to come in handy because the campaign itself, after they hit 5th level, from 5th to 10th, is going to be pretty intense as far as when they do combats. So the player picked a good build for doing damage. And with the rest of the party, of course, we've got Dave, the fighter, who also does just massive damage per turn, and Jaw with his ability to do smites and everything. Just very high damage output party so far. It's great to see him being able to go toe-to-toe with some big bad guys. And here are these little bits on the gloves, these little armored bits, just about done. And Matroth as a whole is coming along. We've got just a little bit to go, but our rogue is so close to being finished. One more session of paint, and we will be done with Matroth. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for checking out that video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Also, if you don't mind getting the notifications, be sure to hit that bell so you can see when we're posting new content. Give us a thumbs up just so we can help reach new audience members. And leave a comment and let us know what you thought of this video, just so we can help create better content and better react to what you need. Additionally, here's another video we think you may enjoy. And, of course, be sure to hit that subscribe. And, of course, please be sure to let us know, where will your adventures take you?